Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're looking at Dinomorphia, a deck that I have liked for a while, just the pure concept of it, getting really low on life points and then summoning out your Megazords. But I think this deck is kind of weirdly positioned in this format where it's like kind of decent, like Floodgate style effects are really good. It also has a lot of floating, so it's really hard to piece apart, but it's just kind of not a great deck. It's missing a couple pieces, I think, but it's also just a very cheap deck. So apart from some of the names in the extract, this is maybe a $10 to $20 deck. So that's really nice. It means that you won't be, really breaking the bank to get to it. So let's go ahead and get into the card by card. So we're on triple Terizia and triple Diplos. Some people are saying cut Diplos down to 2. I think that's incorrect because there's plenty of times when I'm playing this deck. I do have Dinomorphia in paper. I just don't have some of the cards in this list, which I think are specifically very good in paper. So I really don't think you should cut Diplos down to 2. I think you often need names in deck, so having as many copies as Frenzy and Diplos as you can, or Therizia and Diplos as you can, is really important. I also feel like if this deck were to go up a tier in terms of being, rogue to maybe tier 2, we just need a third name. Only having 2 main deck names really hurts the Frenzies and the domains, so hopefully we can get another name. But up next in monsters, we just have hand traps, Ash and Bell. You could switch these out for any hand traps like Nibiru, Droll, anything like that. I don't think we can use Shifter. Well, it looks like you can. It looks like this could be a Shifter deck if you really wanted, but I think Ash and Bell are just kind of generic, so really any hand traps you want or any non-engine that you want. Wannabe is a crazily good card for this deck. Basically think of it like Tearluin's Havness, where it kind of just lets you play on your opponent's turn just a little bit, where it's like they go first and they don't set any cards. You can look at the top cards of your deck and get your most powerful trap card, which is usually either a Frenzy or some kind of Omni Negate. And then we're on DPE. So the reason we're on DPE is because not only there's a couple different reasons. So first reason is DPE package is pretty strong, like just in general. It hasn't lost any power in just DPE. It's just you don't have Verte, so you can't just auto make it whenever you want. That's what like Typhon is for. Now instead of going Verte for DPE is just like your last ditch effort with 2 monsters, you just make Typhon. But not only that, because you're playing a trap deck, you often have an empty hand, which means you can get Celestial draws pretty easily. And on top of that, the popping with DP triggers the floating effects of all of the Dinomorphia cards, which if you didn't know, the fusions can summon, so Rexstrom can summon anything, the fusions can summon a level 4, and the level 4s can summon themselves, but they have to banish a trap to do so. So all in all, I think the DP package is pretty powerful for this deck, so I really don't see why we shouldn't play it. Honestly, you could cut this for any 5 other non-engine you want, or you could cut it for more engine, like more Dinomorphia traps, but I like it. Triple Fossil Dig, just so you have more copies of Terizia, which essentially means you have more copies of Frenzy. Speaking of which, Domain and Frenzy are your fusion spells. Domain, pay half to fusion using monsters from your hand deck or field, and then Frenzy is using a monster from your main deck and extra deck. You really want to be resolving Frenzy as many times as you can, but that's essentially it. We've got 1 intact, which is the monster negate for Dinomorphia. Combine that with Sonic, which is a spell trap negate. Essentially, if you get to Therizia and you already have Frenzy, you're setting one of these. Alert is also a card that goes underlooked. It's just pay half your life, summon 2 Dinomorphias whose level equal 8 or less. So you can summon the 8 in Rexstrom, you can summon a 6, or you can summon 2 4s. I would like to find space for the second one, but I really don't know where that would come from. There's a couple times where this came up where it's like I really want to get to this card, but I could not get to it. I didn't have access to Terizia, or I just couldn't find a way to get to Alert, but it's a really powerful card. Solemn Judgment is just the perfect card for this deck, but then also Iron Thunder is unironically one of the best support cards for this deck. It came out in Phantom Nightmare. It's a secret rare. When a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated, pay half your life points, negate the activation, destroy that card, then destroy any cards in the same column as the destroyed cards. So what that means is if this is in the center column, and your opponent activates a card in the center column, destroys the center column. If this is in the rightmost column, your opponent activates a card in the center column, destroys the center column. So it destroys cards in the same column that your monsters are in, that the destroyed card was in, so you can use that to trigger your Teresia and Diplo's floating effects, as well as the floating effects of the fusions. And then double Ferret Flames. This is basically evenly matched for this deck, but better. Then in the extra deck, we've got triple Katragina, triple Rexstrom, double Stealth Bergia, the 1 DPE, Typhon, Abyss Dweller, Dolka, Logia. I really wish there was something better to play than these, but it just comes down to the fact that, I mean, what are you really doing off of your alert other than making like a Dolka or Logia? It's about the best thing you can do. And then we've got SP and Chaos Angel because 6+4 or 2+8 or something gives you a Chaos Angel, and then SP is just SP. So that's the deck. Let's go ahead and show a couple of the very simple combos that you can do and talk about why I think this deck is well positioned. Alrighty, so we're here and we have one Teresia, which is kind of the best card in the deck. We normal summon this. Because of the way Iron Thunder works, it's probably a good idea to summon this in the middle monster column or an extra deck monster column. The reason is because you might Iron Thunder a removal spell like an Imperm or something. You might Iron Thunder like an extra deck summon like an SP or anything like that. So you really want to pop the Teresias, that way you can get more value off of it. But essentially, normal summon Teresia, activate effect, set Frenzy, and that is your turn. But on your opponent's turn, you activate Frenzy. This will dump. You always want to dump the other names. If you started with Teresia, you want to dump Diplos. So that goes to grave. And then I always dump a Stealth Bergia to begin with. This goes to grave for a Katragina. And then I always go when you do that, you activate Katragina effect, banish Frenzy to copy it, and then I usually banish Rexstrom, or I send Rexstrom, I should say. And then I just send the other name. I usually don't like sending Teresia, but it's nice to have a Teresia in graveyard guaranteed. That way you can float into, because I don't know, they might banish it. You could get evenly matched or something like that. But at this point, you are at 2,000 life points, so your Rexstrom is stopping everything that's 2,000 or less, or 2,000 or more, I should say. But then the second you activate Rexstrom effect, you're at 1,000, so Rexstrom just prevents your opponent from activating monster effects if they have attack higher than your life points, which is pretty crazy. Now, importantly, it prevents them from activating. It doesn't negate their effects. So if your opponent goes normal summon a Luber and activate the effect of a Luber on summon, and you chain Rexstrom, a Luber will still resolve. So you have to kind of do it preemptively depending on what monsters they summon. But from here, you're in a fairly commanding spot depending on what they have. Obviously, you have 4 other cards in your hand. You set other cards. You have kind of a pretty strong resource loop. Now, the only problem with it, so to speak, is you don't have any traps in graveyard to banish for like a Teresia to summon Diplos and then Diplos to summon Teresia. But otherwise, that's the generic combo. DP is really nice because it can pop your Teresia to trigger the floating effects or the Katragina, whichever one you want. And that's kind of what the deck is trying to do, is just set up the big floodgate in Rexstrom, keep your opponent from playing the game with things like Judgment, Iron Thunder Hammer, etc., and then go from there. If we're talking about what I think the deck needs, I think it needs another main deck name for sure, but I think one of the best things it could get is a Dinomorphia Necrofusion. So it's just a fusion spell. It says banish cards from your graveyard to fusion summon a Dinomorphia Fusion from your extra deck. That way you could make Rexstrom basically a second Rexstrom off of just one Teresia, because you have 2 fusions in grave, or anything like that. Basically, the dead fusions that you send off of Rexstrom are just completely useless. So that is the deck. That is kind of what the main game plan of Dinomorphia is for those of you who have never played Dinomorphia before. I think this is a solid budget option. Like if you're trying to get somebody, or if you want a deck to play that's just like, this is like $10, I'll pick it up. This is a pretty good option. So I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like. And if you really enjoyed, make sure to subscribe. That's all for me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.